And welcome to this week's episode of PCP, the Penguin Centered Podcast. Dave is dying right now, so I'm taking over. This is Amber, and also joining us are...
I'm Brandon.
I'm Sam.
I'm Scurv.
And
I'm Matt.
I'm there.
Miles.
Hello, yes, I'm Miles.
I'm Naria.
I'm Snooze.
Alright, and this week we are going to be going over a disclaimer for what to know before a tarot card reading right after these messages. And we're back. So we've decided, I've been doing a lot of tarot cards recently, and through a lot of not-so-fun experiences, I've decided to make a disclaimer, and we're going to go over a little bit of what the disclaimer's about, and why this may be a good idea if you're deciding to do tarot card readings, why you might want to explain some of these things. The first paragraph says, so you're considering a tarot card reading. I've constructed this disclaimer-style listing as a means to give you a fair idea of what you should expect during a tarot card reading, and this goes for any reading, not just mine. What's listed is not meant to be discouraging from you wanting a reading. It's rather to discourage misconceptions as well as discourage repetition of undesired situations that have come up in the past. If there are any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to get in touch with me and we'll talk about it. So the first thing I have listed is things to consider before your tarot card reading. First one is secrets. And the card reader is not held responsible for any private information that comes up during your reading. That being said, please understand that there is always a possibility that sensitive topics will arise during the course of your reading. The reader is merely translating what the cards have laid out. This means, for example, if you're cheating on your partner, it isn't the brightest move to have them come within earshot of the reading. This also means that if you've been purposely avoiding something, don't assume the cards will acknowledge this and graciously move on.
Seriously.
The cards tend to acknowledge it and dwell on it.
Yes, they do.
I'm completely, totally sold just on that very last line there. I'd buy it for that.
Right. Oh, you're not looking at this. You're trying to ignore this. Well, heck, we're going to jump all over this and make sure you know exactly what's happening with this. Because you need to know about this, even though you don't want to.
Yeah. As I die. I actually did a reading yesterday, and not to point out somebody in the chat, but the reading kind of went, oh, and this is going wrong, and this is going wrong, and this is going wrong, and this overlying card says over here is the equivalent of you putting your fingers in your ears and going, la, 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 it's not going on, knock it off. And it's not all that uncommon, and it's not to say that the cards are going to search out everything in order to make you squirm. The idea of a reading is you're trying to look for insight. Insight does not come by patting you on the shoulder and going, oh, you poor thing, you know, it's okay and everything's alright. Insight comes sometimes from hearing things that aren't exactly the most comfortable things to hear. Such as... Go ahead, Snooze.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
No, I refuse.
Okay. Well, it's, I mean, just literally I feel like I should keep just saying this because it's, what you just said is the main thing there. There are a lot of people that want someone to do a reading for them of whatever type, and in all fairness, I don't do tarot, and my stuff is really, really weird anyway. They don't want insight. They want someone to either tell them things are going to be okay. They want someone to justify what they did or didn't do, or they just want to. They just kind of want somebody to tell them, yeah, you're going to be fine, that kind of thing. And these are not necessarily bad things in themselves, but one of the reasons I think this is really cool is because that's not really what I think tarot or intuitive reading of any kind really is for. That's what counseling is for, or that's what your good friends and a Starbucks are for. So,
yeah, if you want something positive, go read fortune cookies.
Right.
If you want to use half the... You want to go ahead, or shall I?
Go on.
Okay, and if you want to use about half the deck in a reading, be really receptive to the cards, and maybe you'll hit 61.
No, Go on.
Some people want readings because all they want is validation of what they think they're doing right, and they want someone to tell them, oh, it's okay. Sometimes the cards don't care about what you want to hear. They'll say what you need to hear. I've experienced that more than once.
Sam?
Oh, just my 2 cents. I've also found that the threat of an impending tarot reading is usually enough to make me reevaluate what's going on, and it makes me think about what I've been avoiding, just so that when the reading occurs, I don't get caught unawares and my world comes crashing down. Because it seems like whatever you're trying to avoid the most always tends to show up in a reading. So I tend to I tend to try to cut them off before that happens. But yeah, that's it.
And it's not saying that all card readings are not going to be doom and gloom and search out everything painful, or if that it's painful and mean and inaccurate, that it automatically means that it's something hiding in your subconscious. That could just mean that the card reading is not accurate with you that time around. It's but it's just letting you know that if you're intentionally trying to hide something, the cards are not going to play nice just for the sake of your poor ego. Don't assume them to. It just ends up badly. So if we go on to the next one is when you're thinking of asking questions for your tarot card reading. The Quarian is always welcome to ask any questions. However, please remember that there is no commitment on behalf of the cards to respond in any expected manner at all. They may choose to answer exactly what you have asked, and there are also many other ways that they can respond that are considered completely valid. This includes refusing to give any type of response at all. If they refuse to give you a reading because of what you asked, they have every right to do that, as well as the reader has every right to do that. It's just how tarot cards can sometimes go. They can also ignore the question and give you a reading on unrelated information to what you asked. Usually this is still important information and stuff that you may need to listen to, and what they're basically saying is what you asked really isn't important. You need to follow over here. Or, especially in the case of belligerence, they may just reply with an insult.
I've had some people who come to me saying, I don't have any questions, I don't know, I just feel like having a reading, as if they want just some glib blanket whatever. And so, using that whatever I can, I do a reading, and they realize that the cards are actually answering a question that is on their mind, but that they didn't have the, I guess, courage to ask. And so, as the reading progresses, it focuses more and more on the unasked question, And then by the end of it, that's exactly what we're talking about.
I've seen that happen a lot too. But I have seen, I know Sam, you've been witness to this, where somebody, they had asked a question and it was really something that everybody had been giving them advice on, and it was a blatantly obvious thing that they should be going through. And the cards kind of took it in this whole other direction. Was like, look, you need to knock this off, you need to knock this off, you need to knock that off, because you're really being ridiculous and you're about to lose friends. And he was so focused on making this fit into his question. It was like taking a puzzle and mashing the pieces together with a hammer. And it just makes it frustrating for everybody. It really, really does.
Because of that, I find it's easier to not even bother asking a question. Because no matter what you ask, they tend to tell you what you need to hear. And kind of like Miles says, usually when I go for a reading, it's more like, I think I need a reading because it's been a while. Or because things are hectic. But, you know, I might ask is, you know, what should I do with my job? And that's completely irrelevant, and they're going to give me an answer anyway. So I've just stopped asking questions.
And I think it really depends on the deck. Because I've seen people give readings that if you have a question, it focuses on that question and they're good to go. My decks will not. They have a very bold personality, and they will tell you exactly what they want to, and that is that. If they feel like answering your questions, they're spot on and they're awesome. If they feel your questions are silly, So I think it really depends on different decks or even different people reading. Some people don't feel comfortable giving a reading unless there is that direction of some kind of question asked.
I do that. I've got a lot of the time, if I'm going to get somebody to read for me, it's because I have 2 + 2 not equaling 4 for something. And I know I'm missing something, or I'm not thinking about something, or there's a piece of the puzzle that I don't have, that not having it means I'm probably going to screw something up. And you know, if I'm doing that, then I'll do a specific question. But I've had people read for me that even though I did have a really clear specific question, they just forget it. They didn't have anything. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't a failing on their part. It's just it wasn't working. Which usually, I'm told, means that you already know the answer. Stupid, quit bugging us. But you know, if I can't figure out what it is, I got to just be stupid until I do.
I think pretty much most all the readings I got from Amber were blind readings, which I have to admit this, and this still tickles me pink. And I say this with all due respect. Your deck can be sarcastic.
No. My deck? Sarcasm.
It's like, yeah. Just when I'm sitting there on the fence going, oh, yeah, okay, now that makes sense.
Yeah, don't expect a 2-card answer to a complex problem.
Although it tends to react poorly when you've already accepted the fact that you're... It's like, okay, yeah, am I as screwed as I think I am? Oh, yeah, I am as screwed as I think I am. Okay.
And how?
And that kind of gets a little bit into the next section is conduct. If you're having a reading, even if you don't see the tarot card reading as anything else but a novelty, just try to take an attitude of professional politeness. At the very least, consider this a kindness to the reader who has taken time out of their day to read for you. Whether or not they're being paid, they're taking time out of their day to read to you. It is also good to provide them with undivided attention. This means no cell phones, surfing 4chan, solitaire, text, IMs, screaming children. I mean, there are mitigating circumstances, so, I mean, always talk to the tarot card reader beforehand and let them know that, you know, you may have kids, or is that okay, or you have an emergency that you have to keep your cell phone on you. Other than that, take away the distractions. It's just kind of rude.
Here, here. I got to toss one in too. People who are not the ones being read for, like, you know, if you're in an event where you've got a whole bunch of people reading and that kind of thing, when you see someone sitting down at, you know, with someone reading, don't go walking up and start. I've seen people actually walk up and start, just stand there and listen or interrupt or something along those lines. I mean, if you've got to walk up to someone, do what you do in any other normal, like, professional, context, and stand there at a little distance away for a moment and wait until the reader acknowledges you.
Yeah. I mean, if it was a therapy session, I'm not saying that tarot card readings are therapy sessions, but if it was a professional setting, as if it was a therapy session, would you want somebody barging in and going, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you talking about? Can I watch? Is it okay? Can I sit here? This is so cool."
Yeah.
I've had that happen.
It's horrible.
Another one that amazes me is when the person who requests a reading is himself or herself a professional reader with an ego the size of a planet and an axe to grind, and who critiques the reading as it's progressing. No, that's not right. That's not what that means.
Yeah. We have that noted farther down, too. Yep.
Oh, sorry. I jumped ahead.
That's okay. And getting a little bit into what Snooze had mentioned, right underneath conduct is company. It can be really intimidating for some people to get a tarot card reading. So a lot of tarot card readers will actually say that, yes, it's okay for you to bring, moral support. Some of them prefer it to be private. So ask, but understand that if you are bringing people, or if you allow them to follow you, you are then vouching for their behavior. If your company's behavior can have repercussions on your reading, that could mean the same thing as if you're asking a belligerent question and the cards are like, you know what, fuck off, I don't want to give you a reading. If your company is just as belligerent, it's the same idea as if you are in any group. If I bring a couple of people together and they're here to listen to Miles talk about his book, and I have a lot of questions to ask, and somebody I brought is being belligerent and making all kind of snarky comments, Miles has every right to go, you know what, I'm leaving the conversation.
We're so done here.
It's professional courtesy. So, advise them that if they're not familiar with it, these are kind of the guidelines that you might want to take. And it's restated that if you don't want somebody to be aware of the deep, dark secrets, it may be wise to leave them at the proverbial door. Or in this case, the not-so-proverbial door. If you bring people, it is more than just, it can be, more than just, hey, look, I opened a fortune cookie, this is fun.
Yeah.
There can be some really harsh aspects to this.
Is Post-Kirby Silence brought to you by Amber?
Apparently. I don't know. I have gotten a couple times where there have been a group of people, and most of them are pretty cool, and most of them are very interested in tarot card readings, and then you have one person with, as Miles will say, an axe to grind, and it's, well, how do you know it's not this? Well, how do you know it's not that? Well, how do you know it's not, you know what, shut up and wait till your own reading. How about that? You know, and it takes away, whether or not you believe in it and you're there for a friend, let your friend enjoy their reading, whether or not they believe in it. I don't care, but let them enjoy it. You being an ass is taking away from their reading as well, because then the reader has to take time out of the reading that they're doing to go, you know what, I really don't appreciate that. Or, you know, well, this is why, and explain something. Questions is one thing, being belligerent is another. Go ahead, Scurf.
Did you just use the words enjoy and reading in the same sentence?
Hey, I was talking about other people's readings, not mine.
I mean, you are aware these are called tarot readings for a reason.
Hey, other people do tarot readings just fine.
Yes, but you give tarot readings, not tarot readings. I mean, tarot. Okay?
Well, the really cool thing about the whole list that you've got here, though, is it really applies to can apply to anybody that does any type of intuitive reading. I mean, I don't do tarot at all. I may have somebody go over in a corner and talk to a skull for 10 minutes, and then maybe whip out a set of like the animal deck or something, or just dig a bob out or something like that. And all of this can apply to that, really.
Mm-hmm. Definition, what's a bob?
Oh, a pendulum, something that you get yes and no's, or, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, like, okay, fine, who's Bob? A person might be wondering. Anyway, okay.
Good point.
Gar.
Okay, don't chant Jenga during the reading. Like a non-specific person who is usually present and hosting this podcast did.
Not naming any names, Dave.
Yeah,
know.
Dave.
Or how about use your best announcer voice? How about that?
Wow.
Although I do have to admit, though, the expression on, whoever that person's face was, when you told him that it was his, was beautiful. I mean, that was of those moments in my life where I wish I had a camera. That was one of them.
And as much as a lot of the regulations can be taken overboard, this is not saying that this is a business suit kind of thing, that you have to sit there with your knees crossed and your hands on your lap and only speak when spoken to. It's more, this is professional courtesy that most people should be aware of anyway. But since it happens more often than not to not be the case, it's better to let them know, just as a friendly reminder, that this is what's expected.
Do you think maybe part of the reason that people don't cue in what would be considered common courtesy in a semi-professional setting is because even if they're pagan or even if they're whatever and they're accustomed to it and they believe in it, there's still this perception that it's got a bit of a sideshow thing going on? I don't think that, but do you think that maybe is part of the reason why people don't feel like they need to, go for common courtesy, or do you think people are just idiots?
A little bit of both, maybe.
I'm good with that.
Because I do think people are just idiots half the time. But on the other hand, it's been seen so much where it's the carnival fortune teller, that anybody can do it. It doesn't take any kind of skill. There's nothing to worry about. There's no anything. So to be respectful to somebody who's doing the equivalent of pulling a number out of a hat, well, that's just silly. So I can see kind of where they come from. But I guess first impressions can kind of give that if you haven't experienced anything else. But hopefully their first reading will give them a little bit more experience and look into just how complicated it could be.
Come on, Amber. You know the cards don't bite.
To believe that one, I'll tell you another.
I used to live in Colorado, and they tried to outlaw all this kind of thing, but they eventually found a way around that by stating that all tarot card readers, palm readers, fortune tellers of any kind have to acknowledge, and in some instances have a sign on their table saying, "This reading is for entertainment purposes only, it has no legitimate value." That's why they aren't actually outlawing fortune telling, they're just legally debunking it. And so a person who goes to a reading there has a big sign staring him in the face saying, "This is all just crap," even though both he and the reader might believe the legitimacy of the reading. If somebody else is going to one for their first time, they might think it's all just crap because this big sign says it's for entertainment purposes only.
So, okay, I'm going to play with this and go off topic just a little bit, just because the opportunity was put in front of me. Since we're putting signs up that says, yeah, this is crap and all that stuff, because, well, whatever. And the atheists out there will love me for this. Does this mean if you go in for confession, they should have a sign up too?
Absolutely.
Works for me.
The whole reason you're in this little booth is so that the priest will have something to laugh about later.
I mean, this is a serious question. Send me some feedback.
That's just a good question, which brings to mind something I was thinking about 10 minutes ago. That one lady I know gets a reading done about once every 2 months or so. Not because she wants to know what's coming up or what's going on or what everything means. She gets a reading done because she sees it as kind of like an inside-out confession. She doesn't go to a confessional booth and all of that, and she does not tell a priest what she's done wrong. She lets the cards tell her what she's doing wrong. And goes from there.
Awesome.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Because that's like what I was talking about a minute ago. Sometimes I'm getting a reading because I know I'm missing something or I'm not getting something, and I just, no matter what I do, I can't figure out what it is I'm not getting right or what I'm screwing up.
So if we move on, a lot of this is just a lot of the first part's just dealing with, how to approach the reading beforehand. If you're okay with all of that, and now this is kind of a what you need to know before your reading. And the cards themselves, all card decks are different. They have anything from slightly to greatly different meanings compared to other decks. So this means don't assume that you can interpret another's deck just because you have one or many of your own. It's considered fairly rude, and it can end up frustrating. This goes back to Miles' point about the person who has an axe to grind and is a tarot professional that goes, no, this is how it is, this is how it is. Well, all readings are different. All of them. I have several different decks, and I have some where I think it's the Six of Pentacles that is completely different from each other.
Also had some people, an experienced reader comes to mind, who told me that a deck is a deck is a deck, he would say. That, yes, it's this Six of Pentacles, this deck might have this picture, that deck might have this picture, but the experienced reader, he will say, could read just as well if all he had was little pieces of paper with the words Six of Pentacles on one, Queen of Wands on the other, and so on. So he just pulls out a little handwritten note, and it has this card ID, and that's all he would need to do a reading.
Well, I know there is the generic, I guess it would be Rider-Waite, I'm not really sure. But there is the generic where this is this, that's that, and you can find it in most tarot card books. But when
it's
you
most well known. Yeah.
Right. But when you throw artwork into it, there's so much symbology, and even if we talk about color, what means green, or the meaning of green for me might be slightly different from the meaning of green to you, and somebody who is colorblind might not have any recollection and use something completely different. So I think when you get into other things, and it's also the personality of the cards and things like that.
Right.
But that the symbology, if it doesn't resonate with you and it really says, hey, as much as the book may say this means inheritance, the symbology really doesn't jive with you like that, and it really pushes you another way, then that's what the reading says.
Right. I've had some readings I've done that the teacher, it's a Rider-Waite example, I was a bunch of people putting each other with long sticks, and the little booklet that comes with the deck says it means this, and the big book that's next to it says this and something else, but what I get from the card is nothing to do with any of those. It's screaming at me that what this person needs to know is that their wall joists are weak in the house. Go check the house.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
I would point out that the decks themselves are well aware of what they're doing. If a deck wants to swap the meaning of, let's say, the Six of Pentacles with the, let's say, Ten of Swords, they are perfectly capable and willing of doing so.
Well, it tailors to the person that you're talking to, too. Like, again, the only deck I routinely work with is an animal medicine deck. And I'll pull, single cards for someone. And a lot of the time I don't go by the book. I'll pull the card up, and what's in the book is good, but depending on the person you're talking to, like just somebody I recently did one for, I pulled a bear card out, and most of what they ascribe to that characteristic meant absolutely nothing to this person. What did mean something to him is someone in his life that he's always thought of as a mama bear.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, as far as I can tell, and again, I'm not a highly experienced person or anything, but I think I want to whip out that thing that I do that says, don't let your preformed expectations limit what you get. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a question then that I really want Joe's input on, because I'm sure he'll have something fun in answer to this question. Is the deck alive? Is the deck aware of what it has in terms of attitude and cognizance? Or is it just ink on paper and the real talent lies with the reader?
I'm going to use a classic answer from quantum theory. Yes, but only 50% of the time. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Scary.
I'd say that it's definitely sentient.
Go not to the elves for counsel, for they will say both yes
They
and
both
no.
no and yes. Okay, so the cards are sentient, you think?
I think the cards have a spirit,
and that spirit uses the cards to speak with, like its own language. That's how I interpret it.
I've seen both. I've seen where the cards are sentient. I have 2 decks that are exceptionally vocal, and they have always had a personality or a spirit to them all on their own. And I also have 2 decks that are just ink on paper.
Well, at that point, you're not truly getting a tarot card reading, are you? You're getting someone who has the gift of of foresight, but is just using the cards as a crutch. That's my opinion.
I guess it depends on the school of thought. I think it can go either way. I've seen people that do need the cards as a crutch because they don't feel like being mean, or they're not comfortable in being mean. So if something that they see in somebody that's hard for them to bring to the forefront, it's much easier to use the cards to say, you're being a narcissistic prick. So yeah, I think they do have to have a little bit of foresight when the deck's dead. At the same time, I don't know. I think it really is a mix of both. I still think that it can still be considered a tarot card reading because it still uses the cards. And sometimes even the people who use it as a crutch aren't completely aware of things. And even if the cards do have a spirit, you still need to have a bit of foresight to be able to hear them and to be able to translate them. So I think it goes from both ends of the spectrum and everywhere through the middle.
To answer the question myself now, what I've found with every deck I have ever seen is they're all connected to the same network, the same central repository, and I am happily connected to that one too. So I almost can pick up any deck and use it. I've always found that to be the case. Even the sleeping ones.
I know, I woke up a deck. My grandmother had passed away, and my mother gave me her cards. Now, I'd only seen them, I think, once in my entire life. And I actually, in a way, as stupid as it sounds, had a conversation with them. I said, look, she's passed away. You know, I want to use you to learn. I want to use you to further my life and the life of my friends and some of the people around me. And I asked them if they would wait. You know, I gave them that respect, and now they're awake to me. I can use them.
Mm-hmm. So while we're on different personalities of cards, there's also, as we go back to the expecting a card reading, you know, all cards are different, and that also goes for the spreads. Everyone does spreads differently. Lots of noise from Barrett and Amanda.
Sorry.
It's okay. But everybody does their spreads differently. Some of them are set out in strict layouts, like a lot of people do the Celtic Cross, and some of them are very organic and freeform. One is not better than the other. One does not show more expertise of a reader. Just as in the cards, do not assume just because the spread resembles another one or one that you use that you are free to correct them in their translation of the reading. Some cards like structure, some cards do not. Some readers like structure, some do not. It's whether they are accurate or not the more organic and free form that the reading is the more skilled of the reader. And that also gets into when you present questions to the cards. The cards are not free for the first 10 minutes and 99 cents a minute after that, like an 800 number. They're not card trick magicians. They're not trained dolphins. And again, to reiterate, they're under no obligation to perform any other way than what they choose. And before asking a question like, what number am I thinking of, or what's my favorite color, or what am I going to have for dinner, think on this. If you put up 3 fingers in the face of a blind man, and you ask him how many fingers you're holding up, chances are his senses are heightened enough at the very least to tell where you are and where your hand is. He can therefore grab your hand and feel for himself. However, it is just as easy, if not more satisfying, to reach out and smack you upside the head for a stupid question like that.
I was just reflecting on something, and you know what a lot of this comes back to?
What's that?
To borrow the language of my brother and I, the Ford-Chevy debate. It was a phrase that I ranted on with my brother once when we were on a web forum, watching 2 people complain about 2 different video cards, and I said, it's just a Ford-Chevy debate. One's not better than the other. It's the right tool for the job.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to styles or tools or anything, a lot of times I just sort of think of it as what fits me best, what fits them best, what works best today. But when that happens, I just sum it up as Ford-Chevy debate. It'll go on. People will complain about that for... Actually, I think they should probably stop complaining. All the parts are made in China now.
You'd think so, but... And no, you're right. People always look for something to complain about, and the easier thing to complain about is what they think is right and how they think they should do things. But
I mean, I don't do tarot readings, but if I see you doing it one way and I see somebody else doing it another, every time I hear the word right, I halfway have to ask, is it right or is it right for you? Is it right for them? Is it right for the situation?
And that also goes to some people who get readings only like some styles of getting a reading. So it goes both directions. Some readers are only comfortable doing it one way. Some querents are only comfortable getting a reading one way. And that's okay.
I mean, I like getting blind readings from Amber for 2 reasons. One, I have a question. I'm just not going to tell her. And 2, partially, I just kind of like watching you get all flustered and stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm honest about it, at least.
Yeah, at least you're honest about it.
But I found something that works. I go for it. You'll pay me back later. It's all good.
Going off something Scurv said, and also you brought up, I am just now learning, past couple of years, been learning how to do tarot card readings. And I was used to the regular setup, regular layout. You know, this position means this position means that, you do it this way. But the past couple of readings I've done has fallen out of that traditional spread. And I've been uncomfortable doing it that way, but at the same time, that's how the cards wanted to be laid out, especially for that reading. It's, as you sort of went back, it's not necessarily the reader's choice, but sometimes whatever that person is asking for or looking for, there needs to be some divergence from the standard. And even if, you know, this one, me in particular, or speaking about myself in particular, you would get, you know, I'm comfortable with the normal spread, but trying to really feel out the cards and figure out what position is what once that starts deviating is a real challenge. And you may see that every now and again, especially if you're looking to ask a complicated question or things are tied in different ways and certain ideas like that.
I still have to admit, one thing that was spooky, though. That last reading I got from Amber, when she's laying out the cards and the map of everything that's going on, it's like, wow, that's just how I picture those interactions. Oh, wow.
Yeah, they're creepy like that.
Warm fuzzy. I will not have one for a while.
And this gets into the other half of when it deals with questions. When you're getting a reading, you should feel welcome to ask the reader about what they're doing. Keep in mind they're under no obligation to answer, but most of them they really will try to explain to the best of their ability. This goes even more for people who have curiosity and not so much the snarky attitude looking for loopholes on how to discredit you. So if a part of a reading doesn't make sense, feel welcome to question them on it. There's no guarantee, but there's always the option that they are able to elaborate. Some things just don't make sense because you're not aware of them yet, or they're things that you're willfully ignoring. But sometimes they can do elaboration cards, but you don't know unless you ask. You should feel comfortable to ask the reader these things. Some other things to keep in mind, there are times when explicit details will be given in the reading, and there's other times will they be intentionally vague. And generally this has little to do with the reader. Consider the reader kind of like a translator for a person who speaks a foreign language. The reader can't translate a speech out of silence. Sometimes the cards will only tell you general information that you feel you already know. This is usually a sign to quit focusing on looking for something else, because all that you need to consider is already right there. Pick up and move along. The cards should not be considered a word from the heavens and be the last thing you consult before a major life decision. These are for providing insight. These are not making decisions for you. These are giving you insight and information to help you make a decision. This means after the reading, go and look up things yourself.
I'm going to interject one thing, and this is my definition of the word insight. And I hold this really dear to my heart. Insight is the ability to ask and generate semi-pertinent questions to the topic, please.
Yeah.
And that's... insight, I mean, it's a word I've seen thrown around a lot, and almost never, if I ask people, what's your definition of insight? A lot of them don't have one.
A lot of people view it as a vague concept. A lot of people view it as it doesn't have, it's all on how you take it, it's...
Yeah. I'm still a big fan of a good question is sometimes better than 2 or 3 good answers.
Agreed. Agreed.
Perspective's another good one. Insight can be a good perspective too. I like that one.
But nothing in these readings are guaranteed, from whether the reading will be positive, negative, talkative, condescending, helpful, vague, blunt, a single card, the whole deck, 61 cards, sensitive subjects, or humoring you so you just shut up and go away. Keep that in mind. This is not a circus trick. This is not, well, some of them are, so I'm not going to say that there's not con artists out there, but if you're going to somebody that knows what they're doing, this is not a circus trick. Everything is different. Sorry, I didn't realize Brandon was troubleshooting. You know, all the cards' attitudes are different, all the readers are different, and if you're looking for something more specific and more easy to pin down, you might want to try a Magic 8 Ball instead of a tarot card reading. It might be able to give you more what you're looking for.
Please, please, please do not ask what you should ask.
Wait, what?
What?
Don't ask the cards what you should ask.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. What should I ask for? Isn't a good question.
It's a fun result, though. Or if they know card tricks, or if they want to play poker or solitaire.
Yeah, most really don't appreciate that.
At the same time, with some of Amber's readings, an 8-ball might be safer.
Hey.
Probably hurt less getting hit with it.
The truth hurts whenever you get nailed with it. Or at least they're perceived, or the way that they put the truth.
What do you think of decks like the Baseball Tarot, the Hello Kitty Tarot, and all these various media sensation printed just for a laugh decks?
I think they all need a teddy bear.
Okay.
I like those decks. They're awesome when they're brutal.
Little Hello Kitty.
Remember that song by the the one called A Boy Named Sue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of torn because Brandon has a Gummy Bear Tarot, and it is the most horrifying, blasphemous tarot deck I have ever seen. But it's great for shock value. Like, I love screwing with people. Hey, look at this tarot deck, isn't it cool? And they're like, why do you use this? Oh, no, I don't use it. But it's really cool.
I have it because it's funny.
Yes.
Well, I have one which I bought thinking it was going to be a different deck, and the pictures and the descriptions were so horrible that I keep it now as an example of a bad deck. And the most telling example of these is that the Lovers card shows a man who has just killed a dragon and is bathing in its blood. That's
I
a
think
Lovers.
you showed me that card.
It's bloody horrible.
It is.
I kept it as an
that does describe some marriages I've seen.
well, the prevalent theme throughout that deck appears to be the Spanish conquistadors' conquest of Mexico. Is a recurring theme. And if it's written for conquistadors, then it's right up their alley, because it's all about what they're doing and what they want and the complete domination and tyranny over indigenous cultures. If you want that in the deck, hey, go for it. It's horrible to me.
So there you go. You have it from Miles. If you are a Spanish conquistador, Miles has the deck for you.
I'm now going to get hate mail from Spanish conquistadors. Just wait.
Well, at least we'll be getting hate mail from somebody.
And lots of people rave over the Aleister Crowley deck, the Path Tarot. They think it's the best deck, and it's this and it's that, and it's great, and they love it, and they get the most powerful readings off it. I don't use it There's a simple reason I can't get it home. I bought a deck on the way home, the car wrecked. I bought another deck about 4 months later. On the way home, the car wrecked. Okay, I gave up. I don't put that deck in my car, so I don't have one in the house.
Thank you for sharing your kryptonite.
Welcome.
I do have a Thoth deck. I've used it once, and it was It wasn't bad, but
Yeah.
You know, actually, come to think about it, if you want to use automobile incidents as a divining tool, that would shed new light on a lot of things that have happened in my life.
let's not use we do not want anybody reading automobile accidents.
Well, there was one road trip I went to a couple years ago, and that was actually the first time ever I had to jump-start that car. But, yeah, that was the morning of the road trip. It wasn't for the RV. But I'm also a big fan if everything's going against you. Maybe you just want to go home and go back to bed.
Write the day off is a bad idea.
Like, yeah, I'm declaring this for the universe. I'm going home. I will probably be somewhere between my bed and between a bed and a video game. Have fun.
Have you ever been in a reading and for whatever reason the reading is halfway done and the person, the parent had to leave, and so they leave halfway through the middle of a reading, and you, doing the reading, have so much to give them that's so important, and you know they need to hear this, and they're suddenly not there, and what do you do with that?
For me, it depends on what deck I've used. I have the Archeon deck, and that's the one I use most often. And they don't take to that very well, so as far as the information goes, I don't really get most of it. Like, after that, they're just gonna like, fine, you're gonna get up in the middle of the reading? We want nothing to do with you now. And everything just either shuts down, or they get really, really, really angry, and there may be physical backlash. Like, I have been where they have bitten people because they got up and left, and the next day they were really, really ill, and the car's just like, well, maybe you should sit the fuck down next time. So
That's a heck of a paper cut.
Right? Some other decks are just, I usually take photos of my readings. So this way, if people have questions later, or they want clarification later, or if an emergency comes up where they have to leave, I do have an image of the reading to where I can go back. But most often I found that the energy just isn't there by the time they get back.
Or in my case, they knew I was leaving and waited for me to come back.
Yeah, or in your case, because they like you. Which is so strange.
This doesn't say good things for Naria, but we sort of expected that. I just figured out what tonight's episode's missing.
What?
Griffin.
He's here, he's just kind of quiet.
Griffin?
Yeah, Brandon.
No, the
I'm
other
here,
one.
but Amber's, I was...
The other one. It's close to Thanksgiving.
Poor Nick. That was a cruel reading.
Phew. So, how do you... I know, Miles, you do a lot of readings. How do you handle if somebody wants a reading and your cards do not want to give one?
Well, I I primarily use 2 decks. I've got several. If a person wants a reading and this deck won't work, that deck won't work, it's probably because they don't want to speak through me. In which case, I'll tell them that I'm not in the right state of mind to give a reading at this time. Like if I can't read if I have a headache. And so, not tonight, honey, I have a headache. But I'll advise them to find somebody else to do a reading. If they absolutely want a reading, and they absolutely want a reading from me, and they absolutely want a reading right now, if I do that, I'll tell them it'll just be going through the motions. It won't be legitimate. It won't be honest or accurate. So there, my answer has to be, reply hazy, ask again later.
Miles, the Magic 8 Ball.
Yay! That thing is so great.
Mm-hmm.
Love me some Magic 8 Ball.
They are kind of fun. Naria, I've seen when your cards don't want to give a reading, they're just mean.
Yep, that's when I should pull out the Magic 8 Ball, except they're connected, so the Magic 8 Ball is mean too.
Nice.
I've had those go, answer hazy, ask again later, about a dozen times in a row.
So being there's not a Dave to put in input, Brandon, I want you in here too. What do you guys feel is the hardest thing for both getting a reading and giving a reading?
Hardest thing?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning?
The thing that you had trouble with whenever you learning to, or the thing that you have the most trouble with now, or interactions with people. Is that the hardest? Is it communicating with the cards? Is it a mix of both?
Go on.
I go into a reading looking, and it's kind of. I know you were just saying the whole, or Naria just said about the whole. What should I ask for? But that's specifically what I go in for. It's I have a perspective on something that's going on, and I just want to help me out with the signal-to-noise ratio, give me some perspective, so I can ask some better questions. And that's pretty much what I'm after.
Focus and clarification.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's fair. See, that's looking for focus and clarification.
Okay.
I know my hardest part has always been wondering whether or not I'm going crazy, or if the shit that I'm pulling out of my head is actually like above and beyond the general reading, is actually pertinent or actually makes sense, which I think will only come with time and being more confident in being a reader. And, well, Empress decks scare me. It's tarot reading. I mean, it's, you're fucking up, you know, da-da-da-da, quit being stupid. It's normally not a very pleasant thing.
Everybody's so mean to my tarot decks.
Because your tarot decks have beaten up just about everybody. Well, the one hasn't beaten me up, but...
If you look at it from the tarot deck point of view, if you start listening, it'll start being nicer.
Exactly! I'm glad somebody gets it, Barrett.
If I keep on throwing punches, eventually you'll learn to duck.
Exactly.
Right. Actually, you know, part of mine for readings, it comes in one of two forms. One is that I just don't have an open third eye. I see pictures on pieces of paper, I see the person in front of me, and I got none. I get nothing there. I can rattle, I can make stuff up, but I know I'm making stuff up, and they can probably tell as well that I'm making stuff up, because the third eye connection to the Dex consciousness, if you want, is not there. I'm going through the motions. And sometimes, if they are perceptive, they can tell that that's exactly what I'm doing. The other one for me that is sometimes difficult in having a reading is just the ability to talk. Sometimes I can't get the words out to give them a reading, and the obvious struggle I'm having in talking becomes such a distraction for the querent that they, out of sympathy, cut the reading short.
You are aware in general we post-produce your stutter out of here.
Yeah, which you have mentioned in the past, but you can't...
And just a reminder...
You can't do that in real life.
True, and just a reminder, you are actually the least effort to post-produce.
You mentioned that as well. I wish I could post-produce my stutter out in real life, but I can't.
I wish I could post-produce out the stupid that comes out of my mouth in real life, but I've been failing at that one for a couple of decades now, so...
Yeah, well.
I can sort of feel your pain.
Scurvy, I love you, but you left yourself open for this one. If you could do that, you wouldn't have a whole lot to say. But I love you, so you just left yourself open for that one. You actually have a lot of very interesting comments. You
do. You do.
Mm-hmm.
But you just sort of left yourself open. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was trying to come up with some sort of taste in toe jam or some remark, but it just didn't materialize. Hello.
Miles, what about getting a reading from other people? Is anything... and what about getting a reading from other people? Is there anything that's been awkward, or do you just normally don't get other readings from other people, or...
Occasionally, I do. Normally, with somebody else, I'd rather get a reading just for myself. I might get a reading with somebody else as well if I'm entering into a partnership with somebody else, just to see how the cards think it looks and like that. You know, like what's the words? Second opinion kind of thing. Every now and then I might do a quickie reading for myself. Actually, no, thinking about it, I don't get any readings for me from other people. I can't exactly say why. I just, generally don't.
I know, it's not really. Generally, if people offer, I'm kind of curious. But at the same time, I know a lot of the readings that I've gotten are very distant. I think the only ones that are really unique, Naria's readings have always been unique and very strangely specific. Like stay away from water people. But most of them are just like, everything's going good. We don't have anything else to tell you. Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah.
So, that can be frustrating for me, getting readings from people. I think the hardest thing for me giving readings is still going back to actually what Brandon said, is sometimes my decks will be very, very, very specific to the point of, okay, and this one represents a woman, she's, 30-ish, I know she has red hair, and she's horribly bitter, and I'm going, oh my god, this person is going to say, I don't know who you're talking about, I don't have anybody in that like that in my life, and the cards are just very blatantly, no, it's okay, God, say that, yep, she's horribly bitter. Yep, and she doesn't like coffee. She hates coffee. Yep. As much as I've given a lot of readings and most people go, wow, you really got it. I got told once that they couldn't decide if they were impressed or felt violated with how accurate it was. And still, with all of that, I'm still going, I don't know. I don't know.
Violated, wow.
Yeah.
That's a new level. I mean, wow, who said that?
That was a Nick.
Amber violated Nick. Violate the Griffin.
Apparently. So that's really the hardest part for me. One of these days I hope to get over it, and it isn't as bad. I don't constantly ask people anymore, does that card make sense? Okay, here, this is what the Three of Wands means. Does that one make sense? Because eventually people just go, yes, they make sense, shut up and do the reading.
Oh,
but
now I've only had maybe a dozen readings in my life, okay? But if you are given something that don't quite make sense yet, this is the question you should be asking, whatever it is. Okay? I know it's probably pretty obvious to everyone here, just thought I'd, just put that out there. It's like, okay, I have no idea what that is. Maybe I should look out for it.
Just like Nuria's reading. Yeah. Just like Nuria's reading, stay away from water people. And I went, I don't really know many water people. What are you talking about? And then all of a sudden emotions exploded and I was like, oh, this is what he was talking about. I'm going to stay away from all of it. Yep, and there was a lot of it, and I'm so glad that I had that little bit of nudge to stay out of it.
Scurvy, they told you twice, go to the doctor.
Your point?
Yeah, you finally got there, didn't you? I'm proud.
Yeah. Hey, you know my views on life and death.
Yeah, I do.
Now, are you going for your follow-ups?
Huh?
I'm just giving
Yes.
Yay.
I like mine when they don't.
You do realize I am going to take this out on somebody else later.
Okay.
At least you'll be alive to do that.
We're not ready for you to leave. You have to stay here.
People have been wanting me to leave for years. Are you kidding?
But we're not ready. And we're the important people.
Alrighty.
Yeah, we are.
No accounting for taste.
I like mine when they don't want to give a reading. They just flip the last card of the prior reading and just be like, you don't need a reading. Go away. Or they just say, how many days before everything goes horrendously wrong. And say, go away.
I've never had that, but I've had my cards either, after fully shuffled, spit out the same general cards, or spit out completely different cards that each mean the same exact thing as the reading before it. Like if they feel that you haven't listened the time before, they will spit out the same exact meaning. Be like, there, have you listened the last time? Nope. Well, guess what? Your reading hasn't changed. Maybe you should suck it up and deal with it.
You'll get it back again until you fix something.
Yeah.
Right.
Reminds me again of Ye Olde Wolf deck, where the 13-card reading was just the foreplay before the 300-card spread with post-it notes.
Ah.
Wow.
Oh, I'm not joking.
So what's the most interesting reading you guys have done?
Interesting reading?
Mm-hmm. Whether it was the spread or interactions.
There was one I gave in which let's see how can I put this. The husband was asking about their impending job situation, and the progress of the cards showed her talking to me, giving her a reading. So we got us at the table giving the reading was a part of the reading.
Oh, weird. That's
That was
cool.
kind of odd. Yeah.
Aside from Scrooby's medical spreads, last read one I had was doing Brandon, where it just went across the table in this little arc and just said, okay, everything you do, something is going to go wrong. So you know what? Do something else.
Huh.
It was just how horribly wrong each fork could go. Brandon. Brandon.
Yes, sir.
Cards haven't changed.
Yeah, I know.
That's right, there's still rectangles with pictures on them.
Thank you, Miles.
You're welcome.
That was appreciated.
Yay.
Brandon says that the same way I do, kinda, you know?
Yep, I know. I'm fucked.
Yeah. Well, I mean... Oh, never mind.
Okay.
A lot of F-bombs tonight.
There
A lot of
is.
F-bombs?
Mm-hmm. So, Brandon, you haven't done that many readings. What's the most interesting one that you gave?
I forget who the reading was for. It was the one before the last one I gave to Maria. I remember it had a really weird spread to it. I also have a bad habit of not being able to remember much about readings. Whether it's me giving them or my brain just shutting off whenever I'm listening to somebody else's, or reading in general, my brain sort of goes to static. So I don't really remember who the reading was for, but I do remember it was a very odd spread. My first experience with not dealing with the typical layout, and sort of geeked me out a little bit. I'm like, these cards, if I don't put them down where they need to be, I'm going to regret it, and it won't make any sense of the entire reading, so I have to lay them out here, and this goes here, and this goes here, and I think I had like 15 extra cards out, and I'm like, there's this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and I think it took me an hour and a half to 2 hours to do the reading, and I'm like, that's the one that sticks out. Unfortunately, I can't remember anything about the reading itself,
It's okay.
But I think that's the other weird part, is the static that comes through to my memory. Like, I can reach over to the other side and pull out all this other information, but I can't remember it. So, for myself, I try to remember the general things of, such as Maria. You're pretty well screwed. So, things like that. But
I like how when we talk about each other's readings, it's always, oh yeah, by the way, you're still screwed. Oh yeah, and remember that reading I gave you where it said you were screwed? Yeah, you're still screwed too. And you, and you, and you. None of us are like, yeah, you remember when I said you were coming into a lot of money? That's still happening. I find that highly depressing, and we need to have a talk with our cards.
Well, I tried having a talk with a source of a couple of my issues, but they blatantly told me they don't really give a fuck what reality is. They'll do what they want anyway. The following sentence is true. I work for a madman in a missile factory. The previous sentence is true.
Yeah, but that doesn't have anything to do with the cards.
I know, but I tried to implement a solution.
Yeah, but the cards also told you there was no solution. Stop it.
I know, but I'm still obligated to try.
But that's what I mean. The cards are like, by the way, you're screwed, you're screwed, you're screwed, you're screwed. Doom, doom, doom. I'm sorry.
You know, we should actually keep track of every time the cards say you're screwed. Maybe there's some way to check if there's a musical melody in there.
That's actually part of the reason why I started to picture them. My cards have given a couple positive readings. I'm not going to say it's all doom and gloom. But
at least mine went shorthand for Brandon and just spread out all the forks.
Nice.
Well, not all of them. Brandon could do something to surprise them.
Like what? God, I'm losing my voice.
I don't know. I don't know what you're gonna do.
Do nothing. Ha 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 ha. I'll still fail. But
maybe it'll include an explosion or two if you do nothing.
So do we want to wrap up with final thoughts and then go after hours and whatever?
Sounds good.
Okay.
I like runes. That's my final thought. They tend to not be as vicious.
I agree with Brandon. He stole mine.
I want some runes.
I like runes too.
My final thought is that I want runes.
Blame Amber.
Hey, don't blame me. I'm waiting for them to say it's okay to make them.
And this is a while ago. That makes me think that sometimes the cards can get too personal, or vice versa. Was when an artist friend of mine had painted the deck, and the models for all the various people in the various cards was all friends of ours that everybody knew. And I was reading this deck for somebody else, and the Hanged Man came up, and the person he read for used the cards, looked very closely at the Hanged Man, and says, "Oh, that's Tom. I had sex with him last week." That'll derail the reading.
Oh my.
I guess my final thought would be listen to the cards, don't stick to dictionary definitions. Odds are whatever entity is controlling them is more right than you are.
I think my final thought is if you're serious when you get a tarot card reading and you have a lot of uncomfortable information, try to remember that it's not because whoever is giving the tarot card reading just decides that they have it out for you, or they're trying to be mean or cruel. It can actually be kind of hard on the reader if they see this whole thing laid out to you, saying that, you know, you're going to, if you don't shape up, you're going to lose friends. If you don't stop having contact with the wrong kind of people, you're going to fall. If you don't start telling people no whenever you're being overworked, you're gonna to lose everything that you have. And then the reader sees you just disregard the whole reading and then sees the reading come to fruition. It's not always easy. So, you know, especially if you're friends with the reader, try to, for both of your sakes. You don't have to listen word for word, but, you know, if you're serious about it, at least take some harsh criticism into serious consideration.
My final thought is tarot decks are kind of like parrots, so don't get laid in a bed that has a tarot deck under the pillow.
Ooh.
You will not like the morning after.
Oof.
I sense a story here.
Or several. But we can save that till later. Did we get everybody's final thought? I think we did. Alright, well, that's it for this episode. Join us next week where we talk about something else. Bye.
Night.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.